This is one of the most hit and miss markets we've experienced in quite some time. One person's experience does not decide what your experience will be. A house can sell in 2 days because of its property type, price, community, condition, lot, layout, or because it offers something that buyers have been struggling to find. Overall, fewer properties were listed, fewer properties sold, homes took slightly longer to sell, and the benchmark price softened. But I don't think the correct takeaway is that the entire Calgary market is suddenly weak. The more accurate takeaway is that buyers have become much more selective. The market is no longer willing to forgive poor pricing, poor presentation, or a strategy based completely on what worked 2 years ago. This is one of the most hit and miss markets we've experienced in quite some time. One person's experience does not decide what your experience will be. A house can sell in 2 days because of its property type, price, community, condition, lot, layout, or because it offers something that buyers have been struggling to find. Meanwhile, a different property may remain on the market for 3, 4, or even 5 months. That can happen within the same city, the same part of the city, and sometimes even within the same community. This is why we can't simply look at Calgary's average and decide that every seller should expect the same result. When I complete a market analysis, I begin with what the city is doing. Then I look at the property type, then the part of the city, then the specific community, and from there I narrow it down further to the home's age, size, condition, lot, renovations, layout, location within the community, price range, and current competition. We use the best data available to predict how that property may perform. But even after doing all of that research, sellers need to understand one very important thing. You don't truly know how the market will respond to your property until the property is listed. We can make a very educated prediction. We can prepare the home, position it, price it, and market properly, but the market ultimately gives us the final answer. Over the past month, I've had a significant number of people inquire about selling their homes. One of the biggest concerns I'm hearing is that sellers are afraid to list too early because they're worried their home will sell before they have found somewhere else to go. This is completely fair, but the danger is assuming your property will sell immediately simply because someone else's did. If there's a real need to sell, it may be better to err on the side of caution and allow enough time for the market to respond. The alternative is waiting until the timing becomes urgent and then discovering that your property happens to fall in the part of the market that needs several months rather than several days. That doesn't mean everyone should rush into the market tomorrow. It means your timing strategy should be based on the likely performance of your specific property type, the data in front of us, and where that part of the market appears to be heading. It should not be based on the fastest sale you've heard about in your community. I also caution sellers against starting the process with too much confidence or assuming that the market is automatically going to reward them. Whenever I see a seller enter the market feeling overly confident, or perhaps a little too certain that buyers will immediately give them what they want, it often sadly goes the other way. The market has a way of humbling all of us, agents included. We need to focus on what is within our control. In this market, the pricing strategy is extremely important. It's right up there with how the property is presented and marketed as a whole. That complete approach is what we specialize in at Calgary's Finest. We can't control exactly how many buyers will walk through the door, but we can control how well the property is positioned to attract buyers who are active.
If this is the type of content you've been looking for, please show your support and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
The detached market continues to be one of the most resilient parts of Calgary's market. There were approximately 1,000 detached home sales in July, down only around 2% compared to last year. New listings declined by approximately 10%. Detached inventory was down around 5%, and the market remained below 3 months of supply. The detached market was approximately 744,000, down around 2% year over year. But put that 2% decline beside fewer than 3 months of supply, and the detached market has barely been affected compared to other property types. This is still a tight market. Detached homes remain one of Calgary's most resilient property types, and the average detached home actually sold slightly faster in July than it did during the same month last year. The average detached home took 33 days to sell compared to 34 days last July. Prices have softened, but we are not seeing detached inventory pile up across the entire city. Buyers have more options than they did during the peak of the market, but the right detached home can still attract attention very quickly. This is especially true when a home provides features that buyers have been repeatedly telling us that they want but are having trouble finding. One place I'm still seeing right now is the market between approximately 1 million to 1.3 million. There is meaningful demand for buyers in that price range, especially for homes in the deeper suburban communities that offer space, lot, finishings, garage, and the overall lifestyle they're looking for. But they're not always finding enough homes that actually check those boxes. I'm also seeing new build versions of that property type offering many of the features that these buyers want, but they're sometimes priced just above what the current group of buyers is prepared to pay. That creates an interesting gap. The buyers are there, the type of home exists, but the pricing and the buyer's idea of value don't always meet in the middle, which means they're not selling to buy that house. This is why we can still see a well-positioned $1.1 million home sell within days, even while other properties in a similar broad price range remain available. I'm also seeing more inventory come onto the market within the luxury sector. As that inventory increases, buyers have more choices and sellers face more competition. We're beginning to see some prices reduced as listings compete for attention. But the luxury market is not one single category either. A beautifully presented home with the right location and the right features can still perform very well. A home that is priced based on what the seller hopes to receive rather than what current buyers are actually responding to may sit. And in this market, it may sit for months, eventually selling for much less than the seller originally expected. That is why being proactive about price movements is extremely important. A price adjustment made while a listing still has some freshness and attention can create a very different result from waiting until the property has accumulated months of history and buyers are wondering why it hasn't sold. The goal is not to reduce a property too soon. The goal is to recognize when the market has given us enough proof that the current strategy is not working. The district numbers show us how differently detached homes are performing across Calgary. In West Calgary, the detached benchmark price was approximately just over 1 million, up around 2% year over year, with less than 2 months of supply. In Northeast Calgary, the detached benchmark price was approximately $564,000, down around 6% with more than 5 months of supply. That is a huge difference. The detached seller in West Calgary may still experience conditions that feel competitive. A seller in the Northeast may be competing against much more inventory and a group of buyers who are highly focused on price and affordability. In the Southeast, the detached benchmark price was around $699,000, which is down around 3% with just over 2 months of supply. In the South, it was approximately $720,000, down around 1%, also with just over 2 months of supply. And in the Northwest, the detached benchmark price was approximately $771,000, down around 4% with just under 3 months of supply. So a little bit more inventory over there. So when someone tells me detached prices are down in Calgary, that statement may technically be true, but it's nowhere near specific enough to predict what will happen with one individual home. When we zoom out and compare total residential price by district, West Calgary was the only district reporting year-over-year benchmark price growth in July. The total residential benchmark price in the West was approximately $723,000, up around 1%. In the Northeast, the benchmark price was approximately $466,000, down around 7%. In the North, it was $528,000. These numbers are all rounded, by the way, down around 5%. In the East, it was approximately $399,000, down around 4%. In the Southeast, it was approximately $554,000, down around 3%. And in the Northwest, it was approximately $621,000, down around 3%. In the inner city, it was $576,000, down around 1%. And in the south, it was approximately $577,000, also down 1%. The market is not simply divided between expensive and affordable areas. Each part of the city has a different mix of properties, inventory, new construction, buyer demand, and pressure around affordability. That's why the question should never be only what is the Calgary market doing. The more useful question is what is the specific market doing for the specific property in this specific location. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next update, and let me know in the comments, what are you seeing? Are the best properties in your area still selling quickly, or are you noticing buyers becoming much more selective? See you next time.